Welcome, everybody, to another edition of All In with Art Stapleton, the New York Giants podcast brought to you by BoardJersey.com and Record. And I got my boy Blue. So it's Big Blue and Blue here. And I just want to know, what's going on? What do you think of the Combine? You happy everybody comes with you this year? Yeah? What about your quarterback for the Giants? Any interest in Big Blue, even though you're blue? No, nothing. That's what I thought. Peyton Manning or Eli Manning? Appreciate you as always. Thank you for having us in beautiful, lovely Indy. Good luck to the Colts this year. All right. See, it's all fun here in Indianapolis in the Combine. Told you it was wild. Thanks for tuning in for this show. We got Blue. We got Sam Phalen from A to Z Sports. We're going to give you all the lowdown on a potential Giants-Titans trade, what Sam's thinking from a Titans perspective. We've got video, Penn State tight end Tyler Warren. Well, why are the Giants interested in Tyler Warren? Well, what was interesting is Tyler Warren, one of his mentors at Penn State was Theo Johnson. So he had some good things to say about Theo. And the reality is we're giving you everything we can possibly give you. So this is the kitchen sink episode of All In with Art Stapleton. And like you said, how often do we have the Colts mascot come onto the show? I mean, let's be honest. What's real is real, right? But I do think that was Peyton in the costume, not Eli. But, who knows? We'll see. I wanted to get his Shador versus Cam pick, but that's just the way things work. Anyway, see if I can compose myself now. The Combine finishing up this weekend. I will be heading back to Jersey at the end of today. We had all the quarterbacks today. We had the running backs. Again, we have some video of Tyler Warren, and it's an interesting thing because Tyler Warren met with the Giants. I don't think the Giants would be looking to draft a tight end at this point in the first round. Clearly, if they stay at 3, I think they're moving up to 1 if they don't get Matthew Stafford. The latest on Matthew Stafford before we get to Tyler Warren is he's with the Rams meeting today. That was first reported by Diana Rossini. He is with the Rams, and now they are talking whether or not they think there can be common ground that he returns to the Rams, or will they be parting? I'm told by sources that the Giants and the Raiders, not just the Raiders, the Giants and the Raiders have the parameters of a contract for Matthew Stafford that'll pay him probably close to $100 million over 2 years. How that contract is structured with void years, if there are void years, Joe Shane does not use void years, but this may be an exception. And now at this point, it's in the Rams' hands at this point. And I think if the Rams and Stafford can come to an agreement, then Stafford stays and he doesn't get traded. If he's going to get traded, then it's going to come down to the compensation. What will the Raiders offer? What will the Giants offer? And it's a wait and see. So keep tabs on social media, art_Stapleton, and everything going on as far as where the Stafford situation is. I'll keep it as up to date as possible. Like I said, I'm flying tonight back home to Jersey. So as much as we can do, we will do, and carry it on and give you everything you need to know. So before we get to Sam Phalen, let's go to Tyler Warren yesterday. Hear what the star tight end from Penn State had to say, not only about Theo Johnson, but there's this feeling that tight ends now are continuing to emerge. We saw what Brock Bowers did last year for the Raiders. If you remember back to the draft, there were 2 players that Nick Saban told Brian Dable would wreck the games. Malik Neighbors and Brock Bowers. And Saban was right. So let's go to Tyler Warren before we come back, and then I'll set you up with Sam Phalen.
If I wasn't playing and if I wasn't coaching, because if I wasn't playing, I probably would be coaching somehow, but I'd probably be golfing or fishing is what I really like to do. So, maybe if I can make a career out of one of those 2, that's what I'd try to do.
And is there one player or like a combination of players that you model your game after? Is it not a tight end maybe?
Well, I did. I wear 44 because when I was younger, my dad put on John Riggins' film and said, "I want you to run the ball." But yeah, I think so. Another guy I saw this summer was Jeremy Shockey, and the way he kind of played and the way his mentality running the ball was something I kind of liked and kind of do a little bit of this year.
What do you feel separates you from the rest of the tight ends maybe on this class?
I mean, me personally, I'm not really focused on trying to be better than other people, just trying to be the best tight end I can be, and I think that's kind of what's helped me, just doing whatever is needed within the offense is kind of what I focus on, what I try and be good at a lot of different things so I can fill a lot of different roles within the offense.
What do you feel like you can bring to the table? What's something that teams maybe tell you? They like the inline blockers, they like the receiver. What did they tell you looking about your team?
I mean, it's really been both. Obviously, being a tight end, it's if you want to be a really good one, you're going to have to do both. You can't just go out and catch passes, and you can't just be a run blocker. And I think that's kind of the fun part about the position. That's kind of been what I've been trying to get across when I have been the opportunity to be with these teams.
Tyler, you mentioned Theo and your relationship. Any part of you guys, when you've talked, to dream a little bit about teaming up again?
Yeah, we haven't talked about that. I talked to him yesterday, like I said, but yeah, that'd be awesome. Any of these tight ends that I played with, if I did have the opportunity to team up with them again and get back on the field with them, would be awesome. Just from those relationships we built in college.
How similar are your games, and how different are you? What makes you guys different players?
We have some similarities and we have some differences. I think Theo is as athletic as a tight end you'll find and can run great routes, and he's a really fast guy. So he might be a little higher up in that scale, and I do more of a little bit of everything. But we he helped me out a lot, and I couldn't say enough good things about Theo and kind of what he's meant to me through my process of being a football player.
All right, so there's Tyler Warren. I'm not really sure what could happen in the draft for the Giants to have an opportunity to draft Tyler Warren, but remember, sometimes they interview prospects that they may not necessarily be taking now, but they're trying to grab intel for the future. You never know when a player hits the market. They can go back and they can look and see what they thought of when he was there, when he was a rookie and that kind of thing. So let's get to Sam Phalen, and I set it up with Sam because not only does he cover the Titans, and he has a good perspective of where the Titans are and will they trade with the Giants. And I think the Giants and the Titans are that unlikely alliance right now, because I do believe if the Giants don't get Stafford, I think they're going to explore getting up to number one. And it's not about not thinking that either Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward will be there at 3. It's the idea of don't leave it to chance. And if you leave it to chance and on draft night you lose both of those quarterbacks, you're in disaster world. And I know Giants fans will say, well, what's the difference? That's where we are now. It's even worse. It could get even worse if you don't get the quarterback that you want. So Sam was on Survivor. September, I watched Sam every Wednesday night on CBS. Made it all the way to the final tribal council, finished as the runner-up. The last thing the Giants want to do is finish as the runner-up in the quarterback sweepstakes. It's a game of musical chairs. They do not want to be left without a chair when the music stops. So a lot of different stuff for Sam Phalen. If you are a fan of reality TV, whether it's Survivor, The Traders, Deal or No Deal Island, we hit it all with Sam. I think you're going to enjoy it. So let's go to the interview with Sam Phalen from A to Z Sports. All right, joining me now from the Combine here in the Convention Center at Radio Row. I got this guy I watched for 3.5 months on TV last year. And this is Sam Phalen. If you're a Survivor fan like me from day one, you got this guy. I won't mention the final tribal yet.
Yeah.
But Sam Phalen, great Titans beat writer for A to Z Sports. Welcome to All In for the Giants.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. It's a lot of Titans and Giants chatter going around the NFL world right now, so it's only fitting that we could come here, talk a little bit about the buzz going around at the Combine, and maybe a little Survivor here and there too.
A little alliance here.
Yeah, you'd be my number one ally here early on.
That's good. Then you'll stab me in the back like.
Oh, come on now.
Let's talk Titans a little bit. It's a new regime, so I'm sure you're still trying to get a feel for what's going on. I mean, how much over the last couple of weeks and then this week you're kind of banging the drums trying to figure out what's going on. How legitimate is the idea that number one is up for sale.
I think it's very legitimate. Honestly, if I were making a call right now, I think it's their preferred outcome with the number one pick. They're still doing their due diligence on both Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders and figuring out if a quarterback is right for them. But I think one of the biggest things that we've learned here at the Combine is really the comfort level of new GM Mike Borgonzi. He feels like he has a leash that maybe Amy Adams-Strunk hasn't had on Titans GMs in the past. And so when you feel like you have a leash as a GM, if you are not head over heels for a quarterback, I think he sees this as an opportunity to start building the foundations of a roster and punt on this big QB decision that's going to need to be made in Tennessee eventually. So I think they are absolutely up for grabs, shopping the pick and seeing what teams are willing to offer.
See, I believe, and I've said it over the last couple of shows, just the idea that if the Giants don't land Matthew Stafford, which right now I'd put it at 30-70 that they have a chance to be in that mix, I think they're going to have to trade up to get to number one, whether it's Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders for their liking, because I don't think that they could just leave things to chance on that night.
Well, the Browns are the interesting team. They're the weird just team right there in the middle that sort of complicates everything because they are the one team that can do just about anything. Right? They want a quarterback, but do they need a quarterback? You could say yes, but I don't know if it's the most timely pressing need like it is for the Giants or the Raiders or even the Titans at this point. They could or could not trade Myles Garrett. And what does that open up for them at edge rusher with a player like Abdul Carter sitting there at the top of the board? And so if you're confident the Browns are going to take a quarterback, all of a sudden the Giants get put into a really tough spot. And I think that's exactly where the Titans want the Giants to be. Yeah. The best case scenario for the Titans is, a world where Matthew Stafford stays probably with the Rams or does some sort of swap with Sam Darnold where Sam Darnold ends up in LA and then the Raiders have addressed their quarterback problem. And now the one team that might be looking like they're on the outside looking in is the Giants. That would be the best way for Tennessee to still get some of the prospects they have their eyes on and gain some leverage. But I think that's the hard part if you're the Giants is are you calling the Titans bluff? Are you calling the Browns bluff at 1 and 2 overall? Because I don't think sitting on your hands and letting the quarterbacks go above you is something that would be too kindly looked upon for Joel Shane right now.
Yeah, and I think after the first wave of free agency, if the Giants don't have the guy that they feel confident enough that, if we get shut out of the top two quarterbacks on our board, I think that's when you're going to see a trade. Because Joe Shane the other day mentioned the Jets-Colts deal from that way back that happened before the draft. The idea that these didn't happen on draft night. So I think the Giants are going to be pressured into getting that pick. So I think we're going to find out after that first wave of free agency. It's funny. Everything that happens with Tennessee affects the Giants. Yeah. So earlier this week, they make the decision that with Harold Landry, that they're talking about that, letting him talk trade with other guys. Yeah. What did you make of that when that pops up? Because my initial instinct was, boy, that sure clears a path to say we need to go draft Abdul Carter.
I don't know if it changed anything for me in terms of where the Titans were approaching the draft, because with Harold Landry on your roster, without Harold Landry on your roster, they still feel like edge is a massive need for them. Their edge play was not good enough last year. And I know that a lot of people in the new regime are not the biggest fans of Harold Landry and what he showed on tape last year. And so right now, if you're the Titans, you're sitting there with a $17.5 million edge rusher. That's probably more of a rotational piece at this point. Trying to figure out, do you need this cap space? How much of this money can you get out from under? And do you actually just need another depth piece to your edge rotation because it is such a weakness? I mean, Arden Key in Tennessee is their second edge rusher that they had out there. He's supposed to be a third down guy. He's supposed to be rotating in, pinning his ears back and going and getting the quarterback. And the Titans put him in a position to fail where he was having to play every single down because of the lack of depth. So there was an attraction to Abdul Carter before the Harold Landry news came out, but sort of the writing on the wall that his time in Tennessee could be up is why so many people feel convicted right now that maybe the quarterback isn't the thing that the Titans should prioritize.
So let's put, you're the GM, you're Borgonzi, and you're deciding on the Titans. And let's be honest, you've seen more of the Titans
Yeah.
than he has at this point, at least invested in it. Let's say you don't trade the pick. You sit at 1. I know it's Shedeur Sanders or bust for you.
Yeah.
Shedeur Sanders no matter what, right, is what you tweeted
Sure.
out. I've kind of leaned that way too for the Giants over the last couple weeks. What would you do, or what do you think the Titans should do if they had number 1 overall?
If they're sticking and picking at number 1, I would take Shedeur Sanders. That is where I would go. I think, taking swings at quarterback is never a bad thing, especially when you go 3-14. I think this quarterback class, especially these top 2 guys, get a little bit undersold because we like to compare them to 2024. We like to look at a really once in a generation quarterback class. 6 guys going in the first round. 4 of them have really productive, strong rookie seasons, and the other 2, have some promise as well. And we try to compare this class. We say, well, where would Shedeur Sanders rank if he would have gone in 2024?
Sixth,
And the real answer is probably number 4. Like I think from what I've heard from the people that I've talked to, from the film that I've watched, I think Sanders and Ward both probably slot right after Drake May, somewhere on that board. And so you're looking at 2 legitimate prospects in my eyes. I think taking shots at quarterback is a good thing for any organization, and I don't necessarily buy into this belief that you have to have a roster in place to go and get your quarterback. I think number 1 overall picks don't come around very often. The Giants just learned that in a really hard way of like, you can have the most miserable season possible
2 years in a row,
and you'll accidentally win a game towards the end of the year, and all of a sudden you might not be in position to go and get your guy anymore. So when you have the number 1 pick, don't overthink it to me. If there's a quarterback that you like, that's where I would go.
And I tend to agree with you, because the last 2 years the Giants had awful seasons that, even though you had the coach of the year, you had an executive that's being praised in year 1, they make the playoffs, they win a game on the road against a team that won 13 games, and they come back for year 2, and year 2 they have the New England Patriots miss a field goal that would have beaten them, and they win that game. Then they beat Washington twice. The second one on a fluke, because let's be honest, Tommy DeVito hadn't even taken a snap in practice with the first team, and that cost them Jaden Daniels and Drake May last year. And now this year, all of a sudden, they figure out to get great quarterback play for one game, like if Drew Lock, they beat the Colts, and now they're sitting at number 3 in a 2-quarterback draft. It's insane.
It's an unfortunate sort of lucky thing that we see teams go through where, if you're the Cincinnati Bengals and the 1 year that you bottom out is the year that Joe Burrow just happens to be coming out, like that's exactly how you want the chips to fall, but you're not there. And so that's been my opinion with the Titans. The Titans have never picked first overall since they've been the Tennessee Titans. You are in a very unique position for your franchise to get a city that, by the way, is starved for good quarterback play. Nashville really would buy into the Titans if the Titans would be competitive. They've got a new stadium coming in 2 years. I think there is a pressure within the city for them to get better and get better fast. And nothing excites a fan base more like a young quarterback that can be branded and marketed as the savior. So, and there is also this belief that if the Titans do not take Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, if they were to trade back, they're probably going to get a veteran at quarterback in free agency, and probably a pretty decent one, a Derek Carr type. They've been linked to Matthew Stafford as well. Somebody who's going to elevate their floor as a team beyond what Will Levis did to them in 2024. Well, now what's your record look like? Now, because if you're going 6-11 with Derek Carr in 2025, what does that do for you long term? How does that position you to go and get your quarterback? People that want to sit at home and say, well, you wait for the 2026 draft class because there's better quarterbacks. You don't know where you're going to be picking in that draft class to go and get those very talents that you might be waiting for. So do I think they will do that? I have my reservations about it, but that is where I would go.
All right. Great laying out that stuff. Now I want to talk to you about your experience with Survivor a little bit. Take me through the timeline a little bit, because obviously I'm watching in last September. what months were you away for Survivor?
Yeah, so I filmed in May and June of 2024. So I first applied back in fall of 2023. It was a September Titans game against the Cincinnati Bengals, and I went down to the field afterwards and did all of my content where I, filmed my stand-up, my reels, got all of my post-game stuff done. And then I was just walking on the field, and I pulled out my phone, and I just started filming my audition video
Talking about Survivor.
Talking about Survivor, talking about my life, talking about my job. I worked on it for a couple of days, sent it in, got a phone call later that week from casting with Survivor, and then you go through this sort of like 6-month process of like constant interviews, of meeting Jeff, meeting some other producers, and then you're jumping over to the casting team, then you're meeting with the CBS executives, and you're filling out medical and paperwork, all of this stuff for like a 6-month period leading up to March of 2024. And that's when I flew out to Los Angeles and did my final casting interview in person. Came straight back to Nashville. It was in the heat of NFL free agency that we were getting it all done. It was like the day
with a first year coaching staff.
Yeah,
right?
The first day that I had to do my interview was like the first day that the signing, that the window opened for teams to negotiate and sign players. So I was trying to work half the time and also focus on my Survivor stuff. And
awesome.
They let me know at the end of March that I was going to Fiji, and we flew out at the first week of May.
So my wife, when we watch it religiously, we were watching, and obviously we had a rooting interest for you because you see Sports Reporter, and it's like, hey, that guy, we covered, so. The overall experience, since you guys find out right when you're out there now, it's different. What is it like with friends, with family when you come home? Like, I know you probably have non-disclosure stuff that you can't really go around and talk, but how do you get back to your normal life after an experience where you're living out there and you're basically become a character? You're yourself, but you become a character.
Well, it's really difficult is like the easiest way to say it, but because it doesn't come through on the TV screen, which it can't possibly when you've got 90-minute episodes that are summarizing days upon days, is just how like immersive and real and authentic the experience is, just how challenging and extreme it is at times. And so you go out there and the people that you're there with kind of become not your family, but they become your entire world. You don't know anything of the world outside of this like little community that you built in Fiji. And especially when you are like me and you go all the way to the end of the game, like this just becomes it becomes home. I remember leaving the beach for the first time when we were getting ready to go to Final Tribal Council. And there was this thought of like, I'm never going to be back here. Like this place has been home for over a month, and I've grown sentimentally and emotionally attached to being here, and I'm never going to step foot back here again. And so it's very hard because then you're kind of dropped back into the world less than a day after you finish filming Final Tribal Council. It's a super quick turnaround. Really? And for everybody else, life went on. Life just sort of kept going, and they missed you. Have you seen Severance, the television show?
Yeah, a little bit. I haven't caught on.
So it actually is kind of similar to Severance in that regard. This idea that these people who go through severance, or they go down to work, and then the next thing they know, they're conscious again, and it's after work, right? And so for them, the time doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And that's how it was for my family, where my family was feeling every day that I was away. Life just kept ticking. And it was sort of like I just hit pause on life, went and lived a separate life, and then had to hit resume. And I missed a chunk of time that I don't feel like I ever missed.
That's
so.
You know what I think? I'm a Marvel guy.
Yeah.
So I think of it as the snap, as the Thanos snap. That the idea of you leave the island, you come back, and you're expecting life to be what it was when you left, and now all of a sudden it's not. It's whatever's happened, and it may just be mundane life.
Well,
as long as
it's for you and your family goes through it. So like you're expecting life to be as it was, and it's not, and your family sort of expecting you to be as you were, and you're not. You're a different version of yourself coming back from it because of all of the positive and negative traumas that it sort of like leaves on you. It's a really immersive, really moving experience. You learn things about yourself. It challenges you. You have so much fun as well. And you come back to sort of regular life, and you're chasing this high, chasing this feeling that you just felt, having so much fun playing the game of your dreams, and it makes you a little bit different than you were when you left. And so for your family, when you come back, it can be hard.
And it's one of those things where it's like, you know, in our life, I mean, we're constantly on the phone, you know, constantly checking updates, especially certain time of year. That's completely out of your life. So you come home and it's like, well, I wonder what happened with the Titans when I get back. I mean, how long does it take you to get back into that routine?
Yeah, it took me maybe a full month before I was like really back into doing stuff at the pace that I was before I left, because it really, my life is so fast paced, and it strips you down to the most slow paced environment you can imagine, where you just have nothing. You don't have time to have entertainment and eat food and do all of the things that you would do that fill up our days and keep us busy and keep us fueled. It's this very slow. You've got nothing to eat. You've got nothing to do. Sometimes you got nobody that you even want to talk to. And so you're just there.
It's like, who's going to stab me in the back tonight when I go to the tribal council?
You're just there with your thoughts. And most of those thoughts are very paranoid thoughts. And the days are long. And so it can be overstimulating for sure when you're just dropped back, and it takes weeks, you know.
Yeah, I don't think I could ever do it. I love the show. Like I said, I've watched it from the very beginning, and I'm fired up, and I love reality TV. Yeah. My wife and I watch it. I don't know if I could ever do it. I don't know.
It is hard. Like it is,
especially hearing the way you're talking about it.
It's so fun though. Like, and that's the one thing that I would say is that it was such a positive experience. Like, I had the most fun, even when I was hungry, even when I was starving, even when I was paranoid. Like, that's what I signed up for. That's what I loved about it, watching it, and that's what I wanted to live. So I was getting the real thing, but it is the real thing. It is very real. It will kick you, kick you. Just when you think you're up, it'll knock you back down. And so you do have to make sure that you have like a why. I think you have to have a reason for going out there, because if you don't have something to keep yourself focused and motivated and locked in, you just can't let your brain slip. Once you slip, it's over.
Did you watch last night's premiere?
I did.
I didn't. I haven't watched it yet. Encouraged?
Yeah,
I mean, interesting.
I love the show. I will I don't think there's a bad season of Survivor. I think like even the worst season of Survivor is still, you know, leaps and bounds above everything else you've got in that market. But no, I'm excited for 48. It's such a lively, energetic cast. It's a lot of, I call them main characters. Like, there's a lot of people that feel like they're the main character, that are trying to prove that they're the main character. A little confrontational, a little messy, but all of the good things. So it was a great start to the show, and Survivor really seems to have found their stride here in the new era. Like, they've put together multiple really strong seasons in a row with the way that they've cast it, with the way that they've sort of settled into the structure. They're really in like this golden era.
My wife has I dragged her into watching the show. She gets upset sometimes at the editing. She feels like it's too leading. It leads you to where the story is going to be sometimes, and I just fall into it. So she kind of predicts some of the things that happen, and I don't look at it that way. I see the game.
Yeah.
I look at it as a game, which is interesting. One more thing on Survivor, and then I have to ask you about Traitors.
Okay.
Survivor 50.
Yeah.
Look, I know 50 years of Survivor, you're not thinking of a pecking order of where you fit.
Sure.
But if they do a all-star edition, if you got that call, would you go back?
Yeah, I would absolutely go back. You know, I had such a positive experience, especially a season like season 50, which would be, you know, we've already heard Jeff Probst talking about like the celebration of Survivor that he wants it to be. You know, and I'm somebody that was born the year, not to age myself too young here, but I was born the year Survivor Borneo came out. Wow. I've grown up as the show has grown up, and I love it.
Wait, you're only 24 years old?
Yeah. Yeah, man, doing it young. This is when you got to do it, when you young, live the adventure.
I just turned 52 a couple weeks ago. So.
But no, it would be like, when something leaves such a big impact on you and your life, like Survivor has to me, before I even played, like it just spoke to me as a human and to my soul, and gave me a lot of friends that I was able to talk Survivor with constantly. When something leaves that impact on you, it's nice to know that you've left an impact on it as well. And I do think that is what season 50 would signify for all of the people that are selected to go out there. Is like, hey, you are somebody that, has an impact on the history of Survivor, and we want you to help celebrate Survivor. So
I think you should be there. You should be there.
Thank you.
Except if the Titans are, all of a sudden getting into
right. They're getting interesting.
Getting into playoffs. All of a sudden, you got to give it up. I love following you on Twitter because you tweet about traders. I have to watch when I'm not watching traders.
Yeah.
I agree with you. My biggest issue, we were big Boston Rob fans in our house, which is ironic considering we're Yankee fans, but he's wearing the Red Sox.
Yeah.
And I root for it. But I'm a little disappointed with the way the traders have turned out, and I agree with that. I think you said Danielle is one of the.
Okay, yeah. She's been messy, but listen, I've grown to accept what traders is. I think if I go into traders, and if you go into traders with the same attitude that you go into Survivor with, you're going to be disappointed every time.
That is true.
Because it's not the strategic show. It's not the social dynamics that Survivor has. I go to just watch some of my favorite reality stars get into petty arguments and fight with each other and lie and become big characters on the TV. And that is the one thing that this season has really delivered. Yeah. Has Danielle been a good strategic trader? Absolutely not. She's been pretty much wrong at every turn that she's taken.
They were all awful. I mean, from the beginning.
And, Rob, maybe got a little too aggressive too soon. Carolyn, I thought, played it actually fantastic. And then sort of unraveled in one episode.
Last week's episode, it was unbelievable how every turn she gave it right to Danielle.
She was killing it all the way up until then, so she did it very well. But I watch it for those we got 4 traders that are all fighting each other in the turret, and that I think is exactly what the viewer comes and signs up for.
Yeah, you're right about that. I don't know if I'm a little leery because I'm not going to watch tonight. I'm going to wait till I get home with my wife.
Okay.
I'm a little leery with now they've got the pair together with Danielle and Brittany because
it's intriguing. It is intriguing because I think they might. I'm hoping that Brittany turns on Danielle. That's what I hope happens.
That would be and going back to the
satisfying.
Going back to the editing, and my wife nailed it from the first episode when
their relationship is important,
and they basically gave us that carrot from the very beginning of the show.
Yeah.
So if anybody's watched Traders, and I know my producer Paul, who's a big Giants fan, but also is he's putting in questions for you. So, what's your favorite reality show besides Survivor?
I mean, right now it probably is The Traders. It is my number one. I'm a big fan of The Challenge. I like The Challenge a lot.
I watched it in the very beginning and I just lost to watch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot to keep up with. They churn out a lot. It's a lot of episodes. But I like The Challenge. It's got some of that same. It's sort of a mix of what you get on Traders and what you get on Survivor. There's some strategy. There's some physicality, a lot of physicality on The Challenge, and then a little bit of petty drama in there for some people. And the fun thing with The Challenge is that every season is an all-star season because they always bring back the same people. So I
used to watch it. I don't even know if you were born or you were probably still in diapers when I used to watch it. It was just literally the Real World and Road Rules Challenge.
Yep.
That's all it was, And back then, I remember going all the way back. And now, people who were on that show are now in the government.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty crazy.
Deal or No Deal Island.
That's what I was going to say.
Paul brought that one up. That one's fun. I just started season 2. I'm kind of late to the party. I watched season 1 last month. I got caught up on it. But Jordan Fowler, the winner of season 1. I just spoiled season 1 for anybody watching, so I'm sorry about that. But she actually lives in Nashville, so she got me really into Deal or No Deal Island. I got watching that, so I'm loving the second season, and I like their model of getting survivors out there. Getting Parvati, getting Rob on season 1 as well has been
so
great.
Paul's question is, if you were in an all-star season of Survivor, and Boston Rob, Parvati, and Russell Hantz are all out there.
Yeah.
And here comes Sam. How do you approach that? So can you beat him?
Russell, I think there's enough animosity out there towards him that you just got to direct the group paying attention to Russell. I don't think I would have an issue with taking out Russell Hantz. Boston Rob, I feel like it would have to be, you have to do a lot of ego stroking. from what we've seen from Rob is we know Rob likes to be in control. He can't help himself but to try and take control. And so if I'm deviating from what Rob wants me to do, he's probably going to come after me. So I have to at least put up the facade at all times. Like, yes, Rob, whatever you say, Rob. Yep, I think you're great. You're the best. I actually look up to you a lot, Rob. And make him get a little bit comfortable. Make him feel like I'm a fanboy. And that's when I can strike. Parvati, I don't know. She's dangerous. I think she's the best Survivor player
I think
ever.
she's the most dangerous. Yeah, she's the most dangerous. As much as, Sari was praised all, and Sandra.
Yeah.
Parvati she's the gold standard. I did not I never root for Parvati, but she's devious.
I think
good.
when you look at the full body of work, the full resume for Parvati, it's really hard to find a better blend of a player in my eyes for somebody who, won a lot of challenges and seemed to find a way in with all these social bonds and kind of charm her way through the game while also being a strategic mastermind and continually pulling the wool over people's eyes. So Parvati would be tough because Parvati's one of those people that you just know she's so good that if I was playing with Parvati, I would want to play with Parvati, but I'd always kind of feel like I'm looking over my shoulder.
Feel like the Black Widow's coming.
And I don't know, like it's hard to fully be able to trust her because you just know that her resume speaks for itself.
You're right. Well, listen, if anybody is still listening who's an NFL fan, we appreciate you hanging on for the reality show portion. Sam, tell everybody where they could find your stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously Giants and Titans in that alliance over the next 6 weeks or so.
I like that. I like the thought of that. Yeah, Sam_Phalen on Twitter. A2ZSports.com is where I'm writing all my Titans content here from the NFL Combine and leading up to the draft with that first overall pick, kind of dominating the conversation.
Awesome. Well, Sam and I are going to go and put out some torches out here in Indianapolis. So thanks for listening. We're all in as always. Thanks to producer Paul. For Sam, I'm Art. We'll catch you next week. Thanks a lot to Sam for joining me, and I hope you guys really enjoyed that. I am a reality TV geek, so I think that probably came out in the interview with Sam, but I think there's also very interesting information from the Titans' perspective. Why would they trade out? What are they looking at? They have a second-year head coach who didn't have a great year last year. They ended up with the number 1 pick. The Titans ended up doing in year 1 with Brian Callahan that the Giants anticipated to do in year 1 with Brian Dable. The only difference is that Brian Dable went out and coached that team to 9 wins, and then won a playoff game. So it changed everything in year 2. Instead of being 25th or 26th first in the first round, don't forget, they were 1. So just keep that in mind when you think about where the Titans were and where the Giants were. So had a lot of content this week. Again, I want to give my thanks to Paul Wood, our producer, has done a fantastic job. This is kind of his part-time gig with NorthJersey.com and the record. He's got a whole bunch of stuff going on. So I appreciate Paul and the work he puts into All In from the start. This is our show. It's myself and Paul. So Paul, round of applause for you and all the hard work that you put into this show. This week was tremendous. The guests we had, the content we put out. I don't think any show or anybody came here to the Combine in Indy and put out more content related to the Giants than we did. More quality content for the people we talked to. Jordan Reed from ESPN, Dane Brugler from The Athletic, Emery Hunt from CBS and from Football Game Plan. We had Connor Rogers from NBC Sports. We had Sam Phalen. We had Blue, the Colts mascot. What else do you want? You got video of Shedeur Sanders, Tyler Warren. We had Joe Shane video earlier this week. We got all the nuggets keeping you up to date with Matthew Stafford and where the Giants fit in that. And then Mike Garafolo of NFL Network kind of put a bow on that the other day and kind of set us up for what the next 6 weeks are going to look like for the New York Giants. So exhale. Still got a lot of content coming up. I think next week I'm going to do what would the dream offseason for the Giants look like. We're going to have that. We're going to have Mock Draft 2.0 landing Monday morning at NorthJersey.com. We'll see if we can get a special guest appearance for Blue the Colts. I think he's one and done But a lot of fun here in Indy. Still have my voice barely. So again, for Paul Wood, for all of our great guests this week, for everybody back at the shop at NorthJersey.com, thanks for pushing everything this week and making this show so special here, and making us feel like we are important, because we are. We are an important part of this coverage of the New York Giants and the NFL. And we're different. We give you a different feel for everything. So hopefully you enjoyed all the content. And if you missed anything, go to the NorthJersey.com YouTube page and catch everything. If you don't like the video and you want to hit audio, you just want to listen to the audio, driving in the car, going out for a run, you can go to anywhere your favorite podcasts are, from Omni to Apple, anywhere. You can go get All In with Art Stapleton. Again, for Paul Wood, I'm Art Stapleton. We are All In, and we appreciate you being all in as well. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. I'll be heading back to my family back in New York. Looking forward for that. Breathe a little bit, but then we'll roll right back into the off season, which for the Giants has meant more than the regular season. Unfortunately, far too many years in the last decade and a half. Appreciate you being all in. Everybody have a great weekend, and we'll catch you on the next show next week.